I really, really liked this play because I feel like I felt a real empathy towards Esther and the other characters, and I really felt Esther's disappointment when Mamie showed her the silk smoking jacket that George had given Mamie. And I also like how Esther was portrayed as really strong and empowered and independent and able to leave her husband by the end of the play. I think one of the values of this play was the idea of deception, and deception really was present throughout all of Esther and George's relationship because Esther deceived George because she couldn't read or write, so she actually wasn't the one writing the letters to him. But also, George deceived Esther and the entire audience with their relationship because Esther would imagine George sitting at a table writing these letters to her, and that's what we as the audience also saw. But later on, we found out that he paid someone else to write the letters. So we all were deceived into thinking George was this man who loved Esther when in reality he wasn't, and he cheated on her and broke her heart. I also thought I think that was really clever of Lynn to have portrayed George as writing those letters to deceive both us and Esther. I think another value really is female strength and empowerment because Esther had a circle of women friends who empowered her and who, in the beginning, helped her win George, and who also were there for her at the end when she needed comforting and another job. Um, One thing I was confused about was in the beginning of the play when Esther made Mamie a corset, she told her that Mrs. Van Buren was asking what all the ladies in the Tenderloin liked to dress like. And I didn't know what the Tenderloin was, so I looked it up. And the Tenderloin was the name of the red light district in the New York City. And I thought it was interesting because Mrs. Van Buren, this classy, rich white lady, wanted to dress like the women in the Tenderloin, like Mamie, whereas Mamie wanted to dress like the classy women of Fifth Avenue. So they both wanted what they didn't have. Um, I think Lynn Nottage wanted to write about the experience of African American women because they're not often portrayed as strong and independent and people who have dreams and ambitions and desires and work hard. That's not really often portrayed in pop culture. And she wanted to give a story and a name to the African Americans portrayed in the photographs at the end of both acts. I think hurtful stereotypes definitely exist today and are perpetuated by ignorance, and overcoming stereotypes relies on the understanding that people are so much more than one thing. So, giving them a story and understanding that they're not just their race or their sexuality or their gender, that they are whole people with dreams and desires, can overcome these stereotypes. Um, Two questions I had were whether the photographs taken at the end of each act actually existed, and whether Mrs. Van Buren actually loved Esther, and that's why she made a move at the end, or whether she was just lonely.